Good morning, grade 5s. I hope you are well. Today we are going to be doing math, so I want you to get your math textbook as well as your workbook ready for me. So today we're going to start with a new topic, length. It is on page 70. You can follow with me. Now, estimate and measure lengths. Now, to measure length, you will use different units of measurements, such as millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. You will also need to choose a suitable measurement instrument. Some examples you can see on the page. So there's 2 measuring tapes, there is a ruler, a trundle wheel, and then you get a meter ruler, which is a ruler that is exactly a whole meter long. Okay, so we get different instruments to measure. So different instruments measure different things. We would usually use a ruler to measure things that's no longer than 30 centimeters. Like things like books and lollipops, and we would measure them in the unit centimeters or millimeters. Then you will get the 2 types of measuring tape. So that would be your length, for example, or the length of your bed, or the length of your table. Now that we will measure in centimeters and meters. Now, to measure something with a meter ruler, which is exactly a meter long, would be the distance between 2 things, or once again, the length of something in your room, something that would be a meter or 2 long. Then you would have a trundle wheel, which you would measure around a rugby field, for example, and that you will measure in meters and kilometers. Now let's have a look at exercise 13.1. Now the first question is to choose the best unit for measurements from the one in brackets. So let's look at the first one. I use centimeters or meters to measure the length of my classroom. Now for a class, you would usually use meters. Okay, so then you can finish that. Then the second one, you need to look at the lines and estimate them at first, then measure them, and then order them from the shortest to the longest. And then number 3 and 4 is once again easy measuring activities. Now let's have a look at exercise 13.2. Now on the video you can see there's converting lengths into units. So from kilometers to meters, from meters to centimeters, and centimeters to millimeters. How to do it? Okay, so if we look at the first one that you have to convert, it is 780 millimeters equals how many centimeters? So now we have the units at the top. There is 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Now to make it from millimeters to centimeters, we would divide it by 10. So now we take the 780 divide by 10 gives you 78 centimeters. So now you can try the rest for yourself. Remember to keep this in mind. Okay, now let's look at exercise 13.3. Now, it is basic math that you're going to do. It's basically just with lengths. Okay, so the first couple of questions are rounding off. Now, you remember how to round off. Don't let the units confuse you. It is exactly the same. It stays the same. The same rules apply. Then when you get to the adding, minusing, dividing, and multiplying, remember that the units needs to be the same of the measurements. So you have to, when you add, minus, divide, and multiply, it needs to be a kilometer from a kilometer, a meter from a meter, a centimeter from a centimeter, and a millimeter from a millimeter. If it is not the same unit, you need to change that. Okay. Now we are going to look at the properties of 3D objects. So this is a new unit. So let's start with the keywords. A face is a flat surface of an object. A prism is a 3D object with 2 identical parallel end faces. A pyramid is a 3D object that has a square base and all its other faces are triangles. Base is the face on which the object rests, and identical is exactly the same. So recognizing and naming 3D objects. Solid objects are objects that you can see around you like books and tables. They are also called 3D or three-dimensional objects. An object that has 3 dimensions when it has length, height, and width. A flat surface of a solid is called a face of the solid. There are many different types of 3D objects. If you want to know what type of 3D object you have, look at the number of faces and the shape of the faces. Okay, so let's look at some types of 3D objects. Now you get a cube, a triangular prism, and a rectangular prism. A pyramid has a polygon as a base. The other faces of a pyramid and triangle, because the edge of the pyramid comes to a single point above the base. The shape of the polygon base gives you the name of the pyramid. So there is a square-based pyramid. Now some 3D objects do not have polygons as a base, such as cones, cylinders, and spheres. These objects are curved surfaces. Okay, so let's look at the keyword. A curved surface is a surface of a 3D object that is not flat. So there's a cone, a cylinder, and a sphere. Okay, now let's look at exercise 15.1. So question 1, you need to draw and name each 3D object from the descriptions that is on page 82 and 83 that we just read. Okay, and then you have to answer a couple of questions about them and sort of identify them. Then at number 2, you need to look at the objects in the photograph and write down the names and what is the same about them and so on. And then in number 3, you need to match the two halves. So there is green ones and there is red, orange like ones, and you need to match them to see which one will then make a complete 3D object. Then I want you to also look on page 84 and 85. Now there is some steps to construct a cube and steps to construct a triangular prism. So you need to make your own 3D objects. Okay, now let's look on page 86. Work with diagrams of 3D objects. You can view a 3D object from different sides. You can look at the object from the top, bottom, front, back, or side. Look at the different views of a chair shown below. So you have a 3D green chair, and then you have the side view, the top view, the front view, and the view from the bottom. Now you need to do exercise 15.3. So number 1 is you need to look at the photograph A to E and identify all of the 3D objects that you can see in each photograph and how many faces are there in each 3D object. So there, for example, number A is a cylinder, and then you're going to identify all of the different faces and so sort of say that it is a cylinder, correct? And then you're going to start talking about the base of the cylinder is a circle and that it has a curved surface and so on, so that you can do for all of the pictures. Then at number 2, you're going to say what shape are the top and the side views of the house in photograph B. So if it helps you, you can draw them. And then number 3, what shapes are the top and the side view of the tin in photograph A. So then you can also draw them and then you need to name the shapes. Now lastly what you have to do is the revision test on page 75 as well as the revision test that I have sent you on WhatsApp. Okay, so that is all you have to do today for math. If you have any questions, remember you can WhatsApp me at any time or you can leave your questions for our Zoom session. Bye.